Good afternoon, guys. Sebastien Ng here. Can anyone hear me? Just comment if you can hear me, or raise your hand if you can hear me. Yeah, looks like it's working. All right. The other guys, can you hear me? Looks like it's working. If it's not, just let me know in the question section, or just raise your hand. It looks like it's all good. You can see there's some people from New Zealand also joining us for this webinar, so that's really good. Hope everything is well there. I heard that you're not in lockdown anymore, so there was a long queue to the KFC restaurant, so that's quite interesting. I would be probably, if I live in New Zealand, I will be there too, so queuing up for the fried chicken. All right, so we will start shortly. We're just gonna wait a couple of minutes. Maybe some people may be a bit late, but that's fine. But yeah, we'll join soon. All right, looks like more people are joining, so that's really good. I will just turn my camera on. Just taking some time to load. Okay. All right. Hope you guys can see me. Yeah. I'll just drag that on the side. Minimize this. Okay. All right. Looks like there's some question. Yeah. That's good. Now we can see us. All right. There's still more people joining. So I'm pretty sure we can extend a bit the lunch today. So let's see how we go. You can see some people from Tasmania also joining us. So that's good to see. All right. All right, let's wait a couple of more minutes. Just looks like other people are joining. I'm pretty sure everyone is grabbing their lunch and coffee now, so let's wait for a few minutes. All right. Just to see who is attending the webinar, can you guys raise your hand if you're an installer? Yeah. Yeah, we have few installers and customers. Yeah, few end customers too, so that's really good. So definitely today will be a good mix where if you're an end customer, you can learn a bit about what Fronius is coming with, what solution we have to offer, especially now you're working from home. So there will be few solutions for you definitely. And you can also learn a bit about the company history on our side. All right. Let's see if there's more people joining. Yeah, few people. All right, we'll start in 1 minute and then it should be all good to go. Someone is asking where is my cute customer. So some of you may have seen one of the ads we did on Facebook. Unfortunately, she's not here today. She's taking a rest. For sure, next time I will bring it. I'm bringing her to work. All right. Okay. All right, let's maybe get the ball rolling so more people will join later on. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are quite busy working from home, so I will try to keep it nice and short here. So welcome to everyone. I'm pretty sure you can see. Yep. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for taking your break with Fronius today. So what we will actually talk about during this presentation. Let me just move this around. We will talk about how Fronius is planning through this COVID-19 because there's few questions that came through, but we will also talk a bit about the history of Fronius, where it all started, and what Fronius has to offer, especially for end customers who didn't hear about a few solutions. So we will talk about how you can really make sure that you make the most of what you have installed there. So how we're going to go with the webinar, I have a presentation, which is going to take around 15 to 20 minutes. Then we will have a Q&A section. So in the Q&A section, we received some questions, and I will prioritize those ones first. And then if you have any question in regards to the presentation, then I will start to answer whatever I have coming through. So you can ask, I would recommend to keep the question at the end. It's going to be a bit easier on my side to answer all of them, but you can pop it at any time in the question tab, and then from there it should be quite easy to go through it. So again, we go through presentation, then all the questions that we received, and finally we will cover any question that you guys have. So that's pretty cool. All right. All right, let's keep the ball rolling. So Fronius Australia and riding through the waves. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Sebastien Ng, application engineer at Fronius Australia, and I also look at different states with the sales side of things also. So as an application engineer, we do a bit of training, we do a bit of looking at special cases, and we also go around with looking after customers. So in Australia, it's been 10 years now. So we established the subsidiary here in 2010, and basically it's been 10 years and working quite well for us here. So it's quite a big achievement for us here in Australia. But let's start where it all began. If I can get this working. Yeah. So where it actually started with Fronius. So in 1945, Gunther Fronius established the company. So you can see a picture of him here, and his goal was to create a long-term value. So before, let's say, after the World War II, there was a lot of people having cars, and there was batteries which basically were not, the car were not used during the week, only on the weekends to go to the beach and all of those things. And people were throwing the batteries away when they were discharged. So Fronius was saying, hey, we should find a solution for that. So his goal was to create this long-term value. We always show where it all started, which is basically a small shed. And as other big companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, Harley, Disney, they started in a similar situation. And we always say that big things have small beginnings because we always need to go down to the roots where we actually come from. So currently, we have 8 offices around Australia, in Europe, and I actually had a chance to go to a few of them, which is quite impressive there. But let's see on a global scale, we have partners all around the world. So everything in blue there, it's basically partners taking care. So it's other businesses that we partnered with so that they can take care of our customers in those regions. But also we have subsidiaries in some countries. So for example, here in Australia, we have one based in Melbourne. We have one in Brazil. So we have a few of them around the world. So 28 total, and I'm pretty sure I need to update this one where we had also a few new ones, but we have 8 in Australia, 28 worldwide, and 14 in Europe. You can see how big the company is globally. And currently, we're still a privately owned company, so we don't have any shareholders who are telling us, hey, what we need to do. So the granddaughter of Gunther Fronius, Mrs. Elizabeth Strauss, is the current CEO. Had the chance to have a few chats with her. Really great CEO, I will definitely say. So being a family-owned ownership company, it's really, let's say, good, especially at this situation where shares are going up and down. We don't have any shareholders to tell us what we need to do. So being stable right now is just the perfect timing for us. Fronius also doesn't only do inverters, so solar inverters. We also do battery charging. So this is where it started in the 1950s, 1940, and then we went to the welding 5 years down the track, and finally in 1992 we have basically established the renewable sector. So I always talk about those 3 divisions. It's basically the same type of energy conversion, so AC to DC, DC to AC. And this is the one important thing is it's 3 different industries. So if you look at solar, it's usually renewable. Battery, it's battery charging, which is logistic, more logistic like your forklift. And then you have the welding, which is manufacturing. One good example was in 2008, there was a big global recession where manufacturing was taking a big hit. But now you can see that, for example, or like before that, the renewable were able to help the welding sector. And the same thing happened with the renewable in 2013, for example, where we took a big hit. That's where welding was able to help. This situation currently also is a good example that we have 3 businesses, three business units, which can help us through this hard time, for example. So we are financially stable. One thing is we are quite well known for our welding machine. I'm pretty sure some of you guys will know about it. I call it the Rolls Royce of welding machine. So if some people don't really believe or know what we do on the welding side. Our friend from Tesla, Elon Musk, actually uses our welding technologies. You can see here a picture of one of their rocket that they were putting together, and he was just commenting saying, hey, just few settings on the welding machine was not set properly. But you can see that we are quite huge also in other business unit. So across all the 3 business units, it's always the same vision, which is 24 hours of sun, and it means 100% renewable. The first thing that we say is we can't achieve this by ourselves, just with solar. We need to make sure that we, just question coming through. Okay, let's have a look at that. Yeah, so it's always the same vision, which is 24 hours of sun, and we know that we can't do it by ourselves. So if you look at the big picture here, you can see that there's hydro top left-hand corner and also renewable, let's say wind on the top right-hand corner. But there's your solar large scale, there's also your medium commercial on the left-hand side, and your residential, which Fronius also play a big part in. So we know that we need to make sure that our technology can adapt with other technologies to be able to achieve this 100% renewable energy. One thing that I will also encourage a lot of people to have a look is hydrogen. So we've been working on this technology for quite a long time, so hydrogen storage. If you're really interested in it, just go on Google and type Fronius hydrogen. You can see how many awards we got with the new technologies that we are developing. I personally think that this will be the future of solar for Australia. So it's a good way of, for example, exporting solar in Australia there. So to be able to achieve this 100% renewable, we need to look at energy sector integration. At the moment, Fronius is basically an electricity provider. We provide energy. But what we really want to achieve is to look at other sectors, like heating, cooling, mobility. We want to make sure we electrify those sectors so that we can move forward. But it's not only to achieve this 100% renewable goal. It's also that we need to evolve and basically adapt to the current demand of, let's say, customers and energy demands. So I always show this quote from Charles Darwin, which says, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. So a good example of that is Nokia. They were at the top. They were the best of the best, but they didn't really change, like Samsung and Apple, for example. If you take an example with Fronius, here right now we are the top in Australia. So residential, we sell quite a lot of our inverter here and everyone loves it, but we can't just rest saying, okay, everything is fine, we are at the top, we don't need to do anything. No, we want to strive for better options to make sure we can achieve our goal there. So to achieve those goals of 24 hours of sun, we need to look at the main pillars of how do we achieve this 100% renewable. We need a solution which is future-proof and flexible, something which is reliable, and something also that you can optimize. So what do I mean by that? Future-proof and flexible, if you look at our product, we want to make sure that when you connect the inverter to the grid, it has all the smart features that all your electricity provider is asking, so that, for example, they can ramp up and down the inverters. You want to make sure that it is easy to design, but also, as mentioned before, make sure that you can communicate with other devices. Maybe, for example, we can control the inverter from, let's say, battery management system, for example. And also having the Suspect Alliance. So if you guys haven't heard about this, it's basically a protocol that we have in place so that other devices can talk with our inverter. Also, future-proofing, what we recommend is make sure that you have a smart meter installed with our inverter. Why? So that you can see what actually is happening on your side. You know how much energy you're using from your solar, you know how much energy you're using from the grid, and you can define what are the big loads and when are you using those big loads. And then from there, you can do energy management. So I will talk a bit about that later on, but also do a, let's say, storage to see what size of battery suits you. For example, reliability is really about our product. A lot of installers have seen how robust our inverter are, but how do we actually achieve that? Our inverter basically are all put together in Australia and Europe, and we get all the single small component put together welded together in our factory and also tested. So there's a video on YouTube that you can see. I thought it was only for marketing purposes, but I had the chance to look at those labs, and I can tell you it goes through regular testing for sure over there. Also, we don't stop in labs, for example. We put the inverter itself, we test it on site. So here on the bottom left, you can see it's in quite low temperature testing, but also our new big inverter, for example, we have a system in Greece, and we have a system in Victoria also being tested. So we want to make sure that they go in harsh condition to make sure that we give the best reliable system. Also in our inverter, in all of them, we put a fan, especially in residential. It's quite important because, for example, when we look on the market, not a lot of inverters have that. And if you look, for example, a system, residential system, which is in an ambient temperature of 40 degrees, I can tell you inside the inverter, it's way warmer. So what we want to do is make sure that we dissipate the heat as the best as we can to make sure that the lifetime of the components are basically longer. And that's also a reason why we are offering this 5+5 year warranty. We know how reliable our inverters are. And from there, it's not just a trend that we are setting. We have reasons behind it. Also, we look at the performance of the inverter. So why do we have a fan inside is making sure that when you need to harvest the most amount of power, which is basically in the middle of the day, that's where the inverter basically derates slowly compared to a passive cooling system. As soon as it gets really warm, let's say at around 11, you can see that it starts to derate at an early stage. So you can see on the graph here also on the left that the duration is really a steep decrease compared to an active cooling. It will just slowly reduce the power, for example. And if we look at energy values, it's around 50% less energy produced in a really hot condition. I always ask customers, hey, what's the maximum ambient temperature? They always say, hey, 40, 45 degrees. I can tell you, if you don't have an active cooling system, your components will suffer for quite a lot there. Then the last part is optimization, which is optimizing the costs. We always talk about the levelized cost of energy. This is basically the return on the investment. So what you do is you take the fixed cost, so it's basically your inverter cost, how much the installer will charge you for the installation, plus the variable cost, because you don't know, maybe he will need to come back and fix some stuff with the system, divide by the energy output. This is basic. This represents your levelized of cost of energy. From there, what we really want to do is optimize this levelized cost of energy. How do we do it? We optimize the variable cost as much as we can. Meaning, if any servicing needs to be done, we make sure that the downtime of the system is less as possible. Meaning that, for example, we have the snap feature. We're super easy to remove it from the wall bracket. Or if you're a Fronius service partner, you can change boards. The first thing is, if you have the board in the car, just go inside, change it. The first thing is the system is down for less time compared to other inverters, but also the time that it takes to change the components also is less. So you have basically one stone, two birds there. So also, we don't want to stop there. We want to go a step further. We have a tech support here in Australia. It's not just a call center. It's actually engineers sitting down. So we have around 8, if I'm not wrong, here. When I started in tech support, it was around 3. Yeah, it was 3 people, but now there is quite few people. So that's really important. Best service that we can. We have a repair center here, so you guys don't need to wait the inverter to go back to, let's say, to the headquarters. Maybe it's in a different country to diagnose what went wrong. We have everything here to get that repaired. And finally, we have an SOS platform, which helps the installer, if they can't get hands-on tech support, to fix it themselves and request for an exchange, for example. One thing that I really want to share with you guys, what happened to me last few weeks is someone, we bought a new TV, for example, and I was trying to get on the tech support, but the thing is, they don't even have a tech support here in Australia. That was quite a bad experience for me, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should have chosen a different TV, for example. But that's just an experience that I have. So if you look at the steps that you need to take for solar with the flexibility, reliability, and optimization, and you look at what an installer usually do when it comes to solar, they usually plan, install, do the warranty registration, service the system, and then monitor what's happening. And if you look at those steps, it's always have a relation to this FRO, which is flexible, reliability, and optimization. Always have a relation, because, for example, if you're installing a system, how well the installation will go will depend how easy it is to install. For example, the OPTIMISE here. If you look about monitoring, it's about flexibility and future-proof, but also planning, when you need to plan which inverter will fit the best here, for example. And servicing, exchanging also, and warranty will be with quality of the product, which is basically reliability of the product. So when we said most of the time we look at this picture here, most installers just stop at this step. They just monitor the system. The first thing that we highly encourage installers is to make sure that they install monitoring consumption. We want the first thing future-proof, so in the future they know, hey, okay, this customer is using this amount of energy at this particular time, and they have basically more data. That's what we highly encourage. Why do we want them to have that? Because the first thing, more data you have, more dollar value it will have. And a good example is with Facebook, for example. That's how they make money. You have a lot of data, they have a lot of customers, they know what's happening. So it's going to be the same for you guys. You have more data on your side. Also, what you can do is, if you have a customer who wants to measure specific load, you can now wire multiple smart meters and monitor this particular device. Or if you have a shed, you want to know how much energy your shed is using, special, like you want to remove it from the total amount, you can just segregate that in one section. So here you can see an example of energy profiling. You have a meter measuring what's going in and out. Then you have a meter measuring, let's say, generator, let's say a heat pump or a pool pump, for example. So you can do energy profiling there. So the next step that we want to do after monitoring, as mentioned, is make sure you have a smart meter so that you have more data, but also optimize the system. And to optimize the system, we have a free energy management. So you can basically turn on and off a relay or a device depending on how much energy you're sending to the grid. So how does it work? Really simple. You have, I'm just going to use my pointer here. Here's a pointer. So what you will have is the inverter here, sitting here, and then you have a meter in the main switchboard. You see, okay, there's excess of power, trigger one of those AUS ports, and you can have up to 4 devices. To make it easier for you guys to have a look, have a picture here. So you have a Fronius smart meter, then you have let's say some loads that you have in a separate circuit. Then you have 4 external relay, but you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, up to you. And you can send a signal to any of those depending on how much power you're sending to the grid. So let's say, okay, I'm sending 1000 watt to the grid. I want to turn my pool pump on. Now my pool pump is on. I'm still sending 500 watt. I want to turn my EV on. I want to turn my heating element on. This is the perfect time to look at how you can make the most of what you have installed, for example. So that's the possibilities. And when I explain how the energy management works, the people always have concerns saying, hey, what happens if I don't have enough excess of power? You can make the system operates even if you have a bad day. For example, let's say it's a cloudy day and you didn't have any excess of power and you need hot water, for example. You can say, okay, at 6 p.m. I want to make sure that my system has worked for 4 hours. So then from there, it will just start 4 hours before, for example. So it will start at 2 p.m. to make sure that your system works for 4 hours. So we have backup if it is a bad day. And also there's some of those switch, if you want to manually go and press on it, that's also an option. So there's different ways of doing it, but you can control up to 4 devices. Usually we use that for big loads, like hot water system, but you can use it for nearly whatever you want generally. So finally, we want to complete the cycle. So you guys, I mentioned you plan, you install, you do the warranty registration, you service the system, you monitor, you optimize or repower, so add more panels or change whatever needs to be changed. The last step is to look at storage. and then consult and go through the whole process. What we really want you guys to be there is to be the energy supplier of the future. You're going to be the point of contact saying, hey, how can I make it better? How can I basically improve how I'm using my energy? And what we have ready for you guys is basically a simulation tool. So if you have a Fronius inverter and a Fronius smart meter installed, with all this data that you have recorded, you will be able to run a simulation. Then you can say, okay, if I install a battery this size, it will make sense. I will be able to charge the battery because I have excess. Or you can say, okay, if I install this battery, it's too big. I will never be able to charge the whole thing. So why going this size? So we made your life really easy in a way where you can just simulate everything using our platform. And this part is, for example, for batteries, Fronius doesn't sell the batteries anymore. So it's basically adding another sale for a different battery, which will be BYD and LG Chem, for example. So that's basically the whole process that we want our installer to go through. So that's basically the tools to give you guys, and also options that you can have with our product. Especially what I usually recommend, because I got few inquiries coming my way, and I always say, hey, the first step that you need to do is making the most of what you have. Meaning you need to shift all your loads when you have excess of power. That's my recommendation. If you can run the washing machine when you have excess of power, why not, for example? So that's basically it as a summary. So looks like you guys don't have a question. I will just open the panel there. What I will do next is cover some of the questions that we received. So just move to the next. I will just stop this. So you guys can still see me, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's now go to a few questions. Okay, I can see a few questions coming here. All right, maybe I will take the question coming from you guys first, and then I will move to the question that we received. So one of the questions from Barry, do you install batteries? So with our inverter, so we are not installers, but you can ask one of our, let's say, Fronius service partner if they can install the batteries for you. But you will need to see which battery you want. So you want an AC or DC coupled battery, and then from there make sure that it is, let's say, compatible with our inverter, which it should be. Is the government smart meter okay? All right. So this is one of the questions that we get. Can we use? I think it's the DNSP smart meter, your utility smart meter you're referring to. If you want to see how much energy you're using on our portal, on the Fronius Solar Web app or portal, you need to make sure that you use the Fronius one, because we have our device in the main switchboard and it talks to our inverter. The utility smart meter, we don't connect to it, unfortunately. All right, any other question, guys, before I shift to the other one? How much is our smart meter? Okay, so how much is our smart meter? We don't sell directly to the public. Usually I would recommend to have a chat with an installer where they can give you a rough estimation. Yeah, that's, I think, the best way to go. What we also recommend is when you install the solar system to get the smart meter straight away. Why? Because it's easier in general for them because they're already working on it, and it's easier in a way. Romy asks, how quickly does the energy meter react in terms of controlling export? So it takes a couple of seconds. I'm pretty sure there was 5 inverter in the loop. It took around less than, I think, 8 to 10 seconds. I have a document on it. Definitely, Romy, I can send that to you. But how quickly does the or like when you need to control the inverter, how quickly it will ramp down? It depends how many inverter you have in the loop. So for example, there was we did some tests, so 5 inverters. I think it took around a few seconds. I need to check it, but definitely the DNSP approves it. But more inverters you have connected together, it will take a longer time to ramp down. Just one comment on that is the DNSP don't want the inverter to ramp up and down quickly because it can create instability on the grid. So they really want to have a slow and up and ramping up, for example. Brendan asks, what electric vehicle chargers are you compatible with? So there is a few brands in Europe. Unfortunately, those brands are not here in Australia. In general, we can do anything with any device which can has IO control. So what will happen is we can control the electric vehicle chargers to turn on and off, but we can't really see it on our platform except if you install an additional smart meter to monitor that. There's other ways. I can go in much more details, which is a bit more complex with using, let's say, Modbus communication. But I can tell you it's possible. It maybe involves few programmings because our inverter are quite open to talk to different devices. Anything with Modbus we can talk to. All right. I have another question. Can I divert excess power to my solar system? I'm not sure if I got this one. So I think you mean, can you divert the excess of power to your loads? Yeah, you can do it. You can do it as explained before. So if you have excess of power, you install this contactor, which will turn on and off depending on how much excess of power you have. All right, I have an element in my solar tank. This one, it's usually it should be an electric one. If you have an electric one, it should be all right. But usually with solar tank, it doesn't work this way. I highly recommend to have a chat with an installer, especially someone who knows about solar tank, for example. All right. Any other question, guys? No. All right. So, all right. I can't see any other question at the moment, so I will move to the next part, which basically are question that we received on our end here. So, all right. The first one was, can we have an ETA on Gen 24 and battery compatibility? So the first thing with batteries in regards to our new hybrid inverter, which is the Gen 24, it will be compatible with BYD first, and then it will be compatible with the LG later on. But when the product will be released, we are planning to have it ready for BYD. ETA on the inverter, so there are some changes on Fronius side. We were planning to bring the Primo Gen 24, which is the single phase inverter, but we did have a few plans change. So we are releasing the Simo Gen 24 this year. I can't give you exact dates, but we are aiming Q3, Q4 this year of the Gen 24. And for the Primo, which is the single phase, I don't have any ETA on this one, unfortunately, but we should have a bit more, let's say, gauge on that soonish. In regards to pricing, it will be a bit more expensive at what we already have. So yeah, that's something to have a look at, because there's more features with the inverter. It has more things to offer, so definitely the pricing will be a bit higher. The next question that we got was, will Fronius still make a three-phase SIMO hybrid, because they are making the new SIMO Gen 24? So we have a hybrid inverter, usually used for residential, and it's a three-phase hybrid inverter. So with this three-phase, it goes from 3 to 5 kilowatt, and the SIMO Gen 24 goes from 7 to 10 kilowatt. So with the SIMO hybrid, the current version, we're not stopping it. So it's still going to be manufactured, and it will run in conjunction with the other SIMO Gen 24. So you pick whichever you want. And also we got a question, can it do a true three-phase backup? Yes, both can do it. But usually when you have a 5 kilowatt inverter, you usually don't have a three-phase 5 kilowatt backup, for example. Is there a webinar for smart home automation, heat pump control, and underfloor heating? So we have few guides of heat pump control and underfloor heating. In regards to home automation, it is quite a big topic, I would say. And with smart automation, we have, for example, in I think end of next month, we will have a webinar which will talk about third-party communication, which means that we're going to show guys how to talk via Modbus, for example, and it can help you with the smart home automation. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. If you're interested to learn a bit more, for sure we can have a look and see if it is something that you guys are interested in. All right. The next one is, how did COVID-19 affect production of all inverters? That's a really good topic. We got from international. We were having a chat with some of the colleagues there. So yes, it did affect a bit our production line. So what's happening over there is, for example, we had to train new people now to go for our manufacturing. So in different departments, we basically train them so that they can also manufacture. So it takes a bit of time to do that. Then the next step also is we have different shifts because of the COVID-19. We need to take precaution between let's say groups of people. So between time shift. So that's something that we have to implement. So that, let's say, two groups, they don't meet at the same time. So we had to have a break, for example. So it did affect us a bit, but yeah, it's just for precaution. There was a few percentage of production affected, but I mean, with the numbers of inverter produced, but yeah, we shouldn't have any shortage at the moment. So that's also a question, or we expect a shortage. At the moment, we still have stock coming through the country. We have quite a bit. So it shouldn't be a big deal. One thing that I can tell you is sourcing the components can be a challenge. So every day the people over there are working really hard to make sure that we have all those small components which goes into our inverter. It can be a bit of a challenge, but those guys are working really hard and finding solution, definitely, and looks good on our side. Will the price of the inverter change? Yes, there is some changes happening. So there is some price that we got, some changes that we got from Fronius International, but we're still working with them. As you may know, there's a change in the FX, but well, it's still a discussion. But yeah, there will be a price change to the inverter. But we are still working. I can't exactly tell you what the exact number, but we are working on this. The other question is Fronius developing an app so the home user can monitor his usage in terms of power, light, even more details such as dishwasher, fridge, washing machine, and even how much goes to the grid? So yeah, we have a new app that we are working on, or let's say a new platform, but it's not going to be out yet. At the moment, you can do this. You can if you install an extra smart meter, you can see, okay, how much power is going to your dishwasher, your fridge. If you have smart appliances, Also, there's ways without the need to install let's say an extra meter, but the thing is you will need to implement it with, let's say, the third party. So we can talk to those third party, but a bit of programming will be required. That's all the main question that we got on our side. Let me go back. Looks like there's more question. All right, so Barry's asking, can I change my utility meter for a Fronius smart meter? No, you need to keep your utility meter. The Fronius smart meter is just an add-on, but we recommend you to have. This utility meter, usually you can't touch this meter. All right, any other question, guys? No questions coming through. Right, doesn't look like anyone has any questions. One thing that I can tell, like, give you a bit of updates what's happening in the next few weeks. So we are doing a training with Selectronics next week. So everything is on our Facebook or even on our website, all the training that we are doing. So this is quite an interesting one with Selectronics. So there's a new solution happening with them. So three-phase Selectronics and Fronius capability. We also have a commercial webinar happening soon, so it's going to be next Friday. So what this commercial webinar, it's going to be a series. So the first one, we are getting an external accounting department to come and talk about how they can use some tax benefit. So if you have customers who are not sure about, hey, especially commercial customers who are saying, hey, I'm not sure if it is a good time to have solar install. So there's a lot of tax benefit happening right now. So it will make sense. It's basically as if not 100% having a free system, but you have quite a lot of savings if you go down this path of installing, let's say, solar for commercial. Also, on top of that, Fronius will show a new solution for commercial. So we're just going to give a summary of how you can, again, optimize more the costs. And finally, there will be 2 other webinars, more for installers, where we're going to go in depth and show you exactly how we're going to optimize the cost of the system. So I highly recommend installers to come and have a look at that. It's, I would say, really important if you're doing commercial jobs, but also if you're doing resi and you're saying, hey, it's really hard to do commercial one. I can tell you, I thought the same, but it is really simple. For me, doing commercial comes as if you're doing resi. So we will show you guys how to do it, really simple way. And then one good thing is also we are partnering with REC and Schletter, where if you attend 3 trainings, or let's say 2 trainings and 1 Facebook Live video, you can win racking, inverter, and panel. So if you guys are interested, you need to, of course, register both of them. But this is also I think, pretty good. All right, no problem, Barry. Our pleasure here. Any of you guys have any questions? Does life of inverter gets affected if you do overclocking? I'm pretty sure with the overclocking you mean oversizing. Is it right? Yes, okay. So with our inverter, you can oversize by quite a lot. So for example, a Primo, you can do, I heard there's a document saying 80% more, but usually I said 50%. You can oversize a Primo, for example. And if you respect the input of the inverter, then you don't have any issues. On our side, it doesn't affect the lifetime of the inverter. For sure, it does not. So our inverter, for example, you can oversize it by quite a lot, for sure. It depends which one again. Yeah. We heard before from my experience. I heard before that some inverters there, as soon as you go, the first thing is you can't really put more on those inverters, and sometimes when they do put more, it had issues, for example. So on our side, if you respect the input, you can go whichever size. Of course, there is some STCs. So this is basically the certificate that you get from the government, like the rebate, and they say that you can go only 33% above that, for example. One thing, for example, for the installers, but also for the end customers, we just heard also from the CEC, if you have a battery installed, you can oversize the system by quite. There's no rules actually. You can oversize the system more than the 33%. And they didn't specify DC or AC. So for us, the understanding is you can, anytime you put a battery, it is AC or DC, you can oversize the system to whatever you want. So we had an email from them. But yeah, if you guys are interested, you can email us about it. We can have a chat, definitely. Any other question, guys? Anyone? Doesn't look like there's more questions. My email address. So the easiest way is to email PV-solutions-Australia. That's going to be the easiest one. And if you can't, just email our when you're going to get the recording, just email us back and we're going to provide the information. So I have another question. Yeah, it's PV solution. So PV-solutions with an S Australia at fronius.com. So and the email, just to correct myself there, the email is from the CER. Sorry about that. It's from the CER, from the regulator, saying that we can oversize the inverter. Got another question. That's a really good one. What does the inverter do if the PV is oversized? I understand the inverter will only take as much as it can. Does it just mean that the inverter is not operating within MPPT range? So it depends where the inverter is sitting. The way that you need to look at it when you have an inverter and a solar and a PV array is the PV array is basically it's basically harvesting the energy. The amount that we can convert is basically the size of the inverter. So let's say you have 8 kilowatt on the roof, you have a 5 kilowatt inverter. Our inverter will just absorb, or let's say convert whatever it can, which is 5. The inverter will always try to go in this MPPT range, which is usually 20% less than what you have. But yeah, usually it will always try to go in this most efficient and efficient range in a way. Even if, for example, in this case, you have 8 and 5, even if you have 3 kilowatt available, our inverter will say, no, we can only convert 5. So we're just going to harvest, we're just going to draw from the panels only 5 kilowatt. Any other questions? There was also a few questions coming through to us with how to set up the apps and everything. We will provide a few quick guides for that, just to help you if you're setting up your monitoring. So definitely we have a few guides online available for you guys. So for sure, we'll try to send you the required information after the training. And you will also get the presentation. All right. Doesn't look like there's any other question. All right. I think that's pretty much it on our side, guys, except if anyone has. Okay, there's another question. All right. I have a question. With Fronius smart meters, are you able to monitor how much the pool slash solar hot water is consuming? With the solar hot water, we can't really monitor them, except if there's like an electric element or an electric factor to it. So a pool pump, for example, you can monitor, but if it is just solar, then it's a different case scenario. I'm not the expert with pool and solar hot water, but in general, if there's no electrical element, then we can't really monitor that. What we can monitor, I will just show you my screen. Press this. So you guys can see my screen. Just raise your hand if you can see my screen. No. Yeah, you guys can see. Okay, so if, for example, you have an electric element, for example, a heat pump or a generator, then here, a pool pump or a generator, for example, if it is electric, then you can put a smart meter here. You will, of course, just put this on. You will of course need to have a smart meter in the main switchboard. So you need one here and one with whatever your measure, whatever else you want to measure there. But yeah, you will need to have, for example, two. So one needs to sit there. So from there on SolarWire, you will see how much energy is going to this heat pump. Whatever is electric, we can do that for sure. Let me go back to the questions. All right. I think that answer your question. Okay. Anyone has another question? No. No questions. Can be anything, guys. Can be any questions that you want to know. Doesn't need to be technical. Can be anything. All right. Can't see any other questions. No. All right, guys, I think that's pretty much on our side. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. You will get a recording of this training too. And if you have any question, please let us know. There's also a feedback form from what I understood. And yeah, if there's anything else you want to learn from Fronius, please let us know. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram too. Now we have a page. Highly recommend to have a look. We have a lot of information out there. Yeah, but if there's anything you want to learn, let us know. Just send us a message also on Facebook if it is easy. But yeah, thanks everyone for attending the webinar. I will be around. I will stay here a couple of minutes and see if you guys have anything else you want to ask. But other than that, yeah, thank you guys. And I see you soon.